Have you ever wondered why life can sometimes feel like a constant battle against disappointment, frustration, or pain? Over 1,500 years ago, Gautama Buddha asked the same question and found a revolutionary path to freedom from suffering. He called it the Four Noble Truths, a roadmap that remains just as vital in today's chaotic world. In this guide, we'll delve into these profound teachings to see how they can help you break free from life's struggles, find inner peace, and live with greater clarity and compassion. The origin of the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are the cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy, stemming from the moment Gautama Buddha achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. After years of ascetic practices and spiritual searching, he realized the roots of human suffering and how to resolve them. Instead of keeping these insights hidden, he began to share them widely. First in the deer park at Sarnath, so that all beings could experience liberation. In essence, the Four Noble Truths are Buddha's concise description of why we suffer and how to stop. Think of them as a doctor's diagnosis and prescription. They clarify the nature of the problem, identify its cause, confirm that healing is possible, and outline the treatment. Over centuries, this simple structure has guided countless monks and laypeople to a more peaceful, purposeful life. Even in our modern age, its wisdom resonates because it addresses not just outer conditions, but the very mindset that underlies our pain. The first noble truth, the reality of suffering. Dukkha. The first noble truth states that suffering, dukkha, is an inherent part of existence. This doesn't mean life is only suffering, but rather that challenges like illness, aging, loss, and dissatisfaction touch everyone. Buddha noticed that even pleasurable experiences carry the seed of suffering because they inevitably change or end. We cling to what we love and loathe what we dislike, creating an ongoing cycle of emotional turbulence. It's important to note that dukkha often translates to suffering, but it can also mean unsatisfactoriness. In other words, even when our basic needs are met, a sense of discontent can linger. Why aren't we perfectly happy once we have comfort, success, or recognition? Buddha concluded that some deeper cause must be at play, something beyond external circumstances. By recognizing this truth, we begin to look inward instead of blaming external events for our unhappiness. In daily life, reflecting on the first noble truth encourages us to see our experiences for what they are, fleeting, changeable, and often out of our control. This recognition, rather than making us depressed, can motivate us to seek a more stable form of well-being that isn't shaken by life's ups and downs. The second noble truth, the cause of suffering, samudaya. Having identified that suffering permeates our lives, Buddha probed its origins. He discovered that our suffering primarily arises from craving or attachment, the relentless desire for pleasure, avoidance of pain, and longing for things to be different than they are. Called tanha in Pali, this craving manifests in many forms: longing for a better job, pining for someone else's success, or desperately wanting to avoid uncomfortable emotions. According to Buddha, the issue isn't that we have wants or needs, it's our clinging to them. We mistakenly believe that by obtaining certain things or conditions, we'll finally secure lasting happiness. But since all things are impermanent, chasing them leads to a perpetual cycle of temporary relief followed by renewed yearning. Think of it like a treadmill. You run faster to catch the next desirable thing, only to realize you're still in the same place of discontent. Understanding the second noble truth reveals how our mindset traps us in dukkha. When we blindly follow cravings, we fuel stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. This insight isn't about denying ourselves joy. Rather, it's about recognizing that joy dependent on external factors will always be fragile. Freeing ourselves from the grip of craving opens the door to a more stable, enduring contentment that doesn't vanish whenever circumstances shift. The third noble truth, the end of suffering, nirodha. If suffering arises from craving, then logically, it can also end when we let go of that craving. This revelation is the third noble truth. Buddha's assurance that liberation, nirvana, is possible. It answers the deep-seated fear many people have that life must always be marked by unease. In essence, if we can uproot the causes of dissatisfaction, then peace isn't just a distant hope, it's an attainable reality. Nirodha, cessation, doesn't imply that life becomes free from challenges. Rather, it means we're no longer enslaved by them. We learn to experience both joys and sorrows without the constant grasping or aversion that stirs inner turmoil. Buddha described this state as unshakable freedom of mind, where we see the world clearly without getting lost in desires or fears. For modern readers, the third noble truth is both comforting and motivating. It tells us that no matter how entrenched our habits of stress or discontent, transformation remains within reach. Even small steps like practicing mindfulness, refining our intentions, or learning compassion can begin chipping away at the mental patterns that keep us bound. Each moment spent in mindful awareness or kind action helps cultivate the conditions for lasting tranquility. The fourth noble truth, the path to liberation, Magga. Finally, the fourth noble truth offers the eightfold path, which Buddha likened to a prescription or method for ending suffering. Comprising right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, this path outlines ethical, mental, and cognitive training that frees us from craving's grip. It's essentially a comprehensive life practice encompassing how we think, speak, and act in the world. Each right in the Eightfold Path indicates a balanced approach, avoiding extremes and ensuring we align with Buddha's core values of compassion, understanding, and non-harm. For instance, right livelihood means earning a living in a way that doesn't exploit or harm others, while right mindfulness encourages staying present rather than drifting into regrets of the past or anxieties about the future. What makes this path so powerful is its practicality. You can apply it whether you're meditating or buying groceries, whether you're a monk or an office worker. Buddha never intended his teachings to be abstract philosophy. He aimed for them to be lived day by day as a means to reduce suffering in all areas of life. Embracing this path doesn't guarantee instant transformation, but it sets you on a trajectory toward greater peace, clarity, and moral integrity. Applying the four noble truths in modern life. Life in the 21st century may differ drastically from ancient India, but the mental and emotional struggles remain strikingly similar. Stress, burnout, interpersonal conflicts, and a sense that something's missing. The Four Noble Truths serve as a timeless framework to address these problems at their roots. First, recognize suffering by naming what's causing you distress, whether it's work stress or relational tension, without denial or blame. Then, identify craving by asking yourself what you're clinging to: approval, control, material possessions, and noticing how this intensifies your discomfort. Next, believe in relief, remembering that peace becomes possible as you release rigid expectations and learn to navigate life with openness. Finally, practice the path by gradually integrating moral discipline, mindfulness, and focused effort. You might start with a short morning meditation or reflect on how to align your job with compassionate values. Even small steps can yield surprising benefits. A daily mindfulness session, for instance, can help you catch unhelpful thought loops before they spiral, while aligning your lifestyle with non-harm reduces stress in relationships and fosters goodwill. Over time, these incremental changes can amount to a significant shift in how you experience your day-to-day reality. Common misconceptions about suffering and freedom. Some people worry that acknowledging suffering means becoming negative, or that letting go of attachment means giving up on happiness. Buddha's teachings clarify these misunderstandings. Recognizing suffering doesn't mean wallowing in misery. It's about honestly seeing the challenges so you can respond skillfully. Letting go of craving doesn't kill your joy. It actually creates space for genuine, unclouded happiness that doesn't vanish the moment conditions change. Another misconception is that the path demands rigid asceticism. In fact, Buddha advocated a middle way, steering clear of both indulgence and self-punishment. The aim is balance and discernment, not extremes. You're free to enjoy life's pleasures, good food, art, or friendship, without clinging to them as the source of your identity or fulfillment. When you understand that your well-being isn't solely dependent on external factors, you gain a resilient contentment that endures through life's ebbs and flows. The real power of the Four Noble Truths. Beyond mere theology or philosophy, the Four Noble Truths serve as a living practice. They offer a way to reinterpret every stressful event, each emotional reaction, and each life decision through the lens of awareness and compassion. Over centuries, monks and lay practitioners alike have used these truths to transform their outlook, demonstrating that this path isn't an archaic relic but a vital, human-centric approach to finding fulfillment. When we see that suffering is universal, we grow more compassionate toward ourselves and others. No one is exempt from hardship. We grasp that clinging fuels dissatisfaction, so we become more flexible and open. Realizing that freedom is possible gives us hope and a clear direction for self-improvement. Finally, the Eightfold Path guides us day by day, reminding us that each choice matters on the road to liberation. In a sense, the Four Noble Truths empower you to become your own healer, diagnosing and treating the very roots of your emotional and spiritual aches. At its heart, the Four Noble Truths show that suffering is neither permanent nor inevitable. By acknowledging what causes our distress and following the path to release it, we can experience a profound shift in how we live and relate to others. What part of this wisdom speaks to you most right now? Share your reflections in the comments. And if you're eager to explore more about Buddha's teachings and practical steps toward inner peace, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Monk Mindset. May your path be one of growing insight and freedom. Have you ever found yourself drained after agreeing to tasks you didn't really want to do? In a fast-paced world filled with demands, saying no can seem like a selfish luxury. Yet if we look at Buddhist monks and Gautama Buddha's core teachings, we find that setting boundaries is crucial for safeguarding our well-being and maintaining genuine compassion. In this guide, we'll explore why learning to say no is both an act of self-preservation and a step toward deeper focus, ultimately allowing you to live more mindfully and meaningfully. Why it's hard to say no. Many of us struggle to say no because we fear disappointing others or damaging relationships. Social norms often equate yes with being helpful and no with being selfish. From Buddha's perspective, however, genuine helpfulness is rooted in skillful intention rather than perpetual compliance. When we overcommit, we risk scattering our energy, leaving ourselves too exhausted to serve where we truly can make a difference. This resistance to saying no is also fueled by attachment to approval, status, or an ideal self-image of being endlessly accommodating. Buddha taught that clinging to such attachments magnifies suffering. Imagine a pot constantly overflowing because it never says enough. Just as that pot eventually wastes resources, we waste time and emotional bandwidth when we say yes to everything. Recognizing this pattern is the first step towards setting healthier boundaries. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but learning to say no is less about rejecting people and more about affirming your own capacity. You can't pour from an empty cup. By temporarily stepping back, you reserve energy to contribute meaningfully, reflecting Buddha's insight that restraint can pave the way for deeper kindness and authenticity. Buddha's teachings on boundaries. Though ancient Buddhist texts don't use the modern term boundaries, the essence of boundary setting appears in concepts like right speech and right action from the Eightfold Path. These teach us to speak and act in ways that align with our well-being and that of others. Sometimes that alignment means respectfully declining a request. Saying no can be an extension of compassion, ensuring that you don't overextend yourself to the point where resentment or burnout overshadow your generosity. Additionally, monks often follow Vinaya, a code of discipline specifying the limits of their behaviors, schedules, and possessions. These guidelines protect their energy for meditation, study, and acts of service. This structured approach provides them the freedom to focus on what truly matters rather than being consumed by endless obligations. For lay people, learning from this monastic framework might involve personal codes or guidelines, clear decisions about how much extra work you'll take on, how you'll spend your weekends, or which community activities you can realistically support. Ultimately, when Buddha encouraged non-attachment, he was also encouraging us not to be enslaved by guilt, people-pleasing, or social pressures. Proper boundaries let you engage the world with sincerity and balance, rather than running yourself ragged. By integrating these principles, you can say no from a place of calm discernment rather than conflict or fear. The power of mindful decision-making. One of the most effective ways to protect your energy is through mindful decision-making, pausing before impulsively saying yes. In Buddhism, mindfulness, sati, is the practice of fully inhabiting the present moment, which can be applied to your choices. Rather than automatically agreeing to a task out of habit or social anxiety, take a moment to breathe, assess your capacity, and reflect on your core values. Monks often engage in short meditative pauses when making commitments. These pauses let them check their intentions. Are they acting out of genuine compassion, or do they feel pressured? You can adopt a similar approach in everyday life. The next time someone asks you for a favor or extends an invitation, try a brief mental inventory. Do I realistically have the time and energy for this? Does it align with my priorities, or will it stretch me too thin? By investigating these questions mindfully, you lay the groundwork for decisions that honor your well-being and the quality of your contributions. This practice also fosters clarity and self-respect. Buddha emphasized that discipline and mindfulness cultivate a sense of calm confidence. Knowing when to say no becomes a conscious act of self-care, allowing you to remain centered and truly present for the commitments that do align with your higher intentions. Compassionate. No, a Buddhist angle. Saying no doesn't have to be harsh or dismissive. It can be done with metta or loving kindness. In Buddhism, compassion extends not just to others, but also to oneself. When you graciously decline an extra project or a social event you're not up for, you protect your mental health and free up emotional space. You're also respecting the person who asked by not giving a half-hearted yes that could lead to subpar follow-through or hidden resentment. Compassionate no's often involve right speech, being clear, truthful, yet gentle. For instance, "Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't commit to that right now," or "I appreciate the opportunity, but my schedule won't allow me to give this the attention it deserves." Such phrasing signals respect for the other person's request while remaining firm on your boundary. Buddha taught that genuine kindness begins with self-understanding. If saying yes to a request jeopardizes your emotional equilibrium, it may not be truly kind in the grand scheme. Compassionate boundaries ensure you don't deplete yourself or inadvertently harm others by overextending. This approach stands as an antidote to guilt-induced compliance. You remain rooted in empathy, but refuse to sacrifice your well-being for appearances or social expectations. Aligning no with your values. Setting boundaries becomes far easier when they are anchored in a clear sense of values. Monks center their lives on spiritual growth and service, which means they regularly say no to distractions that pull them away from meditation, study, or community responsibilities. Similarly, by identifying your core values, whether that's family time, creative pursuits, or ethical commitments, you gain a benchmark for which requests deserve a yes and which don't. Think about how many times you've said yes to avoid feeling rude or to please someone in the moment, only to regret it later. Buddha's insight into right intention reminds us that sincere motivation matters more than superficial politeness. If you accept every invitation for fear of appearing selfish, you risk betraying your deeper goals. In the long run, perpetually sacrificing your values leads to a fractured sense of self and chronic stress. When you say no in alignment with your guiding principles, you build integrity. People come to respect your clarity and earnestness, even if they might be momentarily disappointed. And you'll feel less inner conflict, reinforcing your commitment to living authentically. This synergy of clarity and consistency is a hallmark of the monastic way, and it remains potent for anyone juggling modern obligations. Practical steps to protect energy and focus. While Buddhist wisdom offers a solid philosophical foundation, turning it into daily habits can be more challenging. Consider these actionable techniques. First, pause before responding. Monks often insert a short gap, a few breaths, before giving an answer, which keeps emotional reactions in check and allows for reasoned evaluation. Next, set clear limits by deciding in advance how many obligations you can handle each week, like capping after-work social events or volunteer hours. Having a predetermined threshold simplifies decisions on the spot. Another tactic is to offer alternatives. Sometimes a direct no can sting less if you propose a smaller gesture of help or a future time that works better, showing goodwill without compromising your boundaries. Practice mindful reflection by keeping a journal of when you said yes or no, noting whether it aligned with your core values or led to regret. Review these entries weekly to glean insights for fine-tuning your approach. Finally, focus on one priority at a time. Multitasking dilutes energy, so prioritize tasks sequentially and give each your full attention. If new requests clash with that priority, it becomes clearer why you might need to say no. Adopting even a few of these habits can dramatically reduce overwhelm. You'll begin to notice how smaller, well-chosen commitments lead to higher quality engagement and a healthier mental state, mirroring the mindful, disciplined approach monks embody. Learning to say no can feel uncomfortable, but with Buddhist-inspired mindfulness and compassion, it becomes an act of self-respect and clarity. Every time you safeguard your energy, you free yourself to invest deeply in the commitments that truly matter. Which tip will you try first? Let us know in the comments. And if you found these insights helpful, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Monk Mindset, for more wisdom on living a balanced, purposeful life. May each well-placed no open doors to richer focus and greater peace. Have you ever wondered why painful experiences so often lead to your biggest breakthroughs? Gautama Buddha pondered this very question more than 2,500 years ago, concluding that suffering isn't just an inevitable part of life, it can be a powerful catalyst for growth. Far from promoting despair, Buddha emphasized how confronting challenges can illuminate our deeper capacities for understanding, empathy, and resilience. In this guide, we'll explore why Buddha saw suffering as both unavoidable and profoundly transformative, and how you can channel hardships to foster greater wisdom and inner peace. Why suffering is inescapable. Dukkha. In Buddhist teachings, the term dukkha is often translated as suffering, though it also encompasses feelings of dissatisfaction, restlessness, or unease. Buddha observed that everyone, no matter their status, wealth, or knowledge, grapples with these forms of discomfort. Physical ailments, emotional turmoil, social conflicts, or even the realization that life's pleasures are fleeting, all fall under the umbrella of dukkha. He didn't highlight this to be pessimistic. Rather, he believed recognizing suffering was crucial if one wished to transcend it. Imagine going about your daily routine, convinced you can avoid all pain and frustration. The moment adversity strikes, say you lose your job or face a health crisis, such illusions shatter, creating even more distress. Buddha noted that this avoidance mindset actually amplifies suffering. Instead, by acknowledging that difficulties are woven into existence, we stop resisting reality and begin examining our emotional responses. Accepting the inevitability of struggle doesn't mean resigning ourselves to misery. It means stepping onto the path where real healing and transformation become possible. In everyday life, acknowledging dukkha might involve admitting that certain relationships strain us more than we'd like, or that our career successes haven't delivered unending happiness. Identifying these pains prompts us to ask deeper questions. What keeps us tethered to dissatisfaction? How can we respond differently? As we become honest about these dilemmas, we open the door to rethinking our perspectives and adopting new coping strategies, setting the stage for meaningful growth. Buddha's pivotal insight, from pain to progress. Buddha's own journey captures how adversity can awaken us to deeper truths. Born a prince, Siddhartha Gautama lived in sheltered luxury until he encountered old age, sickness, and death. Disturbed by these stark realities, he left the palace to seek an end to suffering. His eventual enlightenment under the Bodhi tree wasn't merely about escaping pain. It was about understanding its nature and harnessing it as a stepping stone to greater awareness. This idea resonates even now. Crisis points often push us to reevaluate our assumptions about life. Perhaps you endure the heartbreak of a failed relationship or the loss of a long-held dream. In the aftermath, you may question who you are without those attachments, sparking an existential or spiritual inquiry. Buddha's insight suggests that without the sting of discomfort, many of us remain complacent, locked into habitual routines that neither challenge nor enlighten us. Suffering shatters those routines, inviting us to see beyond our comfort zones and grow in ways we hadn't considered possible. Thus, suffering can serve as an unlikely mentor, ruthless yet honest, showing us where we hold misguided beliefs or where our priorities may be out of balance. By examining our emotional pain instead of burying it, we gain the courage to pivot, transform, and ultimately live with greater authenticity. Like Buddha, discovering the illusory nature of worldly comforts, we too can use suffering as a lens that clarifies what truly matters. The purpose of hardship. Spiritual awakening. Why do difficulties so often lead to personal or spiritual awakening? In Buddhist philosophy, suffering serves as a loud alarm bell, alerting us that our usual coping mechanisms, like clinging to material success or chasing fleeting pleasures, aren't foolproof. You might enjoy a high-paying job or a fulfilling romance for a while, but changes, layoffs, breakups, or health issues can leave you unmoored. This jolt can trigger a profound reevaluation of what stability and happiness really mean. Buddha believed that illusions, particularly the illusion that external achievements guarantee lasting peace, keep us trapped in cyclical dissatisfaction. Hardship pierces those illusions. Imagine losing something you believed you needed to be happy. The ensuing pain can crack open your preconceived notions about life. While it's uncomfortable, this dismantling process paves the way for deeper wisdom. You learn that genuine peace must arise from within, not from external acquisitions or validations. For monks, hardship is sometimes deliberately embraced through ascetic practices or minimalist living, aiming to strip away distractions so that the underlying workings of the mind are laid bare. For lay practitioners, daily challenges, balancing finances, coping with family strife, facing societal pressures, can serve a parallel function. Each hardship reveals that the mind's freedom isn't determined by external comfort, but by the cultivated ability to remain centered and compassionate, come what may. How suffering exposes attachments. One vital role suffering plays is exposing our attachments. According to Buddha, we suffer because we latch onto impermanent things, whether objects, people, or the belief that life should be perpetually smooth. When those attachments face disruption, pain emerges, reminding us that our dependency on fragile conditions seeds ongoing anxiety. Envision how heartbreak might reveal your deep-seated fear of being alone, or how job loss might uncover your reliance on external recognition for self-worth. These revelations, though painful, are invaluable. They pinpoint exactly where we've placed undue hope in something ephemeral. Recognizing these attachments puts us at a crossroads. Cling tighter and prolong distress, or let go and find a more resilient form of peace. Monks exemplify detachment by living simply and refraining from luxuries not out of disdain for enjoyment, but to avoid the mental heaviness that possessions often bring. For laypeople, the takeaway might be a more moderate approach, repeatedly questioning whether we're too emotionally invested in certain roles or items. By gently disentangling from these illusions, we lessen our vulnerability to despair when life shifts. Through this lens, suffering becomes a beacon illuminating our deepest clingings so we can dismantle them consciously. Choosing growth, a monastic model. If suffering is inevitable, the question becomes, how do we respond? For Buddhist monks, part of the answer lies in embracing voluntary simplicity and daily meditative discipline. They view minor discomforts like rising before dawn, adhering to limited meals, or engaging in repetitive chores as opportunities to train the mind against knee-jerk reactions. Instead of seeing these routines as restrictive, monks appreciate them as a mental gym, building resilience and clarity. This approach can translate into modern life in smaller ways. If you notice you habitually avoid tasks that bring discomfort, like a challenging conversation or a fitness routine, decide to tackle them deliberately. By leaning into manageable forms of hardship, you reinforce the muscle of perseverance. Over time, bigger crises also become less daunting because you're used to facing adversity head-on rather than fleeing from it. Essentially, you cultivate what psychologists might call stress inoculation. Each instance of discomfort met with mindfulness and resolve bolsters your confidence in handling life's storms. Buddhists underscore that growth is less about the absence of hardship and more about the skillful engagement with it. Adopting a monastic mindset, even part-time, fosters a proactive, self-reliant attitude that can turn suffering into a stepping stone rather than an abyss. Suffering's role in compassion and empathy. Another crucial dimension to Buddha's view of suffering is the expansion of compassion. Personal pain often sensitizes us to the hardships others face. If you've struggled with grief or anxiety, you're more likely to sense the depth of someone else's distress, avoiding the trap of superficial platitudes. Compassion then evolves from a lofty ideal into a grounded reality, fueled by shared human vulnerability. Buddha's path after enlightenment wasn't solitary. He spent decades teaching and alleviating the suffering of countless people, indicating that insight born from his own trials ignited a profound empathy for others. In modern contexts, when a friend loses a job or endures heartbreak, your empathy resonates more genuinely if you've faced similar trials. You recall your own confusion or pain, forging a bond that goes beyond polite sympathy. This sense of interconnectedness fosters a community of mutual support, creating a ripple effect of understanding that counters alienation and stigma. Through this lens, personal suffering isn't just about your individual growth. It's also an avenue for nurturing collective well-being. By converting your adversity into empathy, you participate in a shared healing process that enriches everyone. This synergy echoes Buddhist teachings on interdependence, suggesting that our personal liberation is intimately linked with the liberation of others. Practical steps for leveraging suffering for growth. While the Buddha's insights offer a profound framework, translating them into daily practice requires deliberate action. For many of us, suffering triggers emotional upheaval, ranging from frustration to despair. The key is to transform those experiences into paths of self-awareness and development. Instead of viewing pain as an obstacle, see it as a signpost directing you toward deeper truths. Begin by acknowledging your pain rather than denying it. Name the emotion, be it grief, anger, or fear, and allow yourself to feel it without judgment. This recognition sets the stage for honest reflection on what attachments might be fueling your distress, like a hidden need for approval or a tightly held expectation about how life should unfold. Next, adopt a simple mindfulness practice. Even a few daily minutes of silent meditation or focused breathing can help you observe discomfort without letting it spiral. As you sit with these emotions, you can systematically ask, what lesson does this reveal? Perhaps you discover an over-reliance on external validation or an unmet need for boundaries. Choose small, manageable steps to address these issues, such as seeking guidance from a mentor, journaling your realizations, or actively letting go of a specific want that no longer serves you. Finally, remember that the pain you endure can heighten your empathy for others facing similar ordeals. Reach out, share your understanding, or offer support in a way that feels natural. Emphasizing compassion extends your growth beyond the personal realm, turning suffering into a collective uplift. Each day you practice these steps, suffering morphs from an unwelcome intruder into a catalyst that refines your character and widens your perspective. Embracing life's imperfect journey. Buddha never promised a life free from struggle. His teachings revolve around understanding and using struggles to awaken deeper wisdom. Instead of clinging to fantasies of perpetual comfort, we learn to navigate reality with eyes wide open. This doesn't mean courting misery. It means letting each hardship expose the illusions we harbor about ourselves and the world. The illusions fall away, and in their place emerges a clearer, kinder, more flexible mindset. When you embrace the truth that suffering can nurture growth, you step off the exhausting treadmill of avoidance. Challenges remain, but they don't lock you in despair. Armed with mindfulness, self-reflection, and compassion, you stand steadier in the face of life's turbulences, confident that every storm can reveal something valuable about your own strength, your capacity to connect with others, and the ever-evolving dance of existence. In this spirit, adversity becomes not an end but a transformative chapter in an ongoing story of self-discovery. Buddha's insight that suffering is necessary for growth offers a profound shift in how we view life's darkest moments. Rather than dreading or denying pain, we can learn to embrace it as a guide toward deeper understanding, empathy, and inner freedom. Which of these practices or reflections speaks most to your current struggles? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this exploration helpful, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Monk Mindset, for more teachings on transforming hardship into a gateway for lasting wisdom and peace.